everyone. Jester Bell is back, and I made the ill-advised decision yesterday to cut my own bangs. And this is the result. And I look like the girl from Alien Earth, and I'm sorry, my long bangs were batting in my eyes, I got frustrated, I took a pair of scissors, and destruction happened. So that's where I'm at right now. Don't worry, I've scheduled an appointment to try to get this fixed, but that's just, I guess, how I'm gonna look for my Frankenstein review. But okay, let's move on to the topic of discussion today. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Now, this year you've heard me say that I have scarcely found any film that have come out that I've enjoyed. I mean, I think I like K-pop Demon Hunters. There were some horror films this year that people really liked that went to areas that I didn't want to watch. But so I just have had this entire year where it's been like, there's barely anything that I like. It's all mid to bad movies. This has just been the worst year of movies that I've ever lived through. Luckily, there was finally a movie for me that I did not think pushed the boundaries into anything, too far for me that crossed the line. I can handle what's in Frankenstein, and it's an excellent movie. So this was just such a breath of fresh air to me, and I wanted to do this review because I wouldn't have maybe checked this out unless I was hearing how great it was from other people. So, if anyone watches this and gets to hear about how good this movie is and knows that still this level of quality can be found somewhere, and maybe they want to watch it after that, then this review has done its job, if anyone finds this review. So let's talk about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein and why it's so good. In fact, as much as there's been so many movies this year that I think people undersell just how bad it is, I don't think that people were selling me hard enough on how good this movie would be. And I had high expectations going into it, but it met those expectations and went beyond them. So yeah, this might be my movie of the year. I think that this is even better than K-pop Demon Hunters. I think this might be the best movie that I have seen all year. So let's get into it and what makes Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein such a great film. Well, first of all, I was instantly drawn into the film by just how great the production value of this film was. It looks amazing. Like, they spared no expense when it came to the set design and the costuming and the cinematography, and how there'll be shots where a character will wear a certain outfit. Like, you've got Frankenstein as a young boy and his mother with like her red outfit. She's the only person wearing red, and you see the flow of her veil, that's going across like 10 feet. The shots are just so well composed and so well thought out, and they know how to draw your eye to the exact thing. They draw your eye to Frankenstein's mother as she is the big thing in his life. She is like, the one good thing in his life in this sort of miserable upbringing. So this movie, with the set design and the cinematography, it just knows how to draw your eye and keep you engaged with everything that is happening. Like, the imagery of this film, there's a lot of false god imagery in this film. Like, for example, when Frankenstein is first lifted up on his sort of platform, he has it sort of like upraised like the cross, but it's at a tilt, so it's like this is a perversion of God, what Frankenstein himself is doing. And the monster is up and it's sort of at a tilt from the cross, and that represents that. So throughout the entire film, it's a visual feast, and there was always something that engaged me with this film, whether it was what is there to be taken in by the cinematography and what that cinematography is saying. Like, there's such an attention to detail. They even noted that Mia Goth's character, who plays a very interesting character in this film, the detail on her dresses, the spine there, and their connection, how that connects her with the monster. Like, there is just so much in this film that at any time, like, there was no scene that I felt was wasted with this film. I heard some people say that they thought it was boring. I never had a moment during my watch of this film that I thought it was dull. Like, there was always something, whether a piece of character development was happening, or there was a discussion going on about, the ethics of what Frankenstein is doing and what it means, or there was visuals that also expressed that, and they were just really interesting to see. Like, another great visual I saw was when they first get to, like, the laboratory, and they make it so that there's leaves leaves coming down everywhere, fall leaves. And so just every bit of this film, there was always something to engage me so that I never wanted to distract myself with anything else. Like I was just talking about that in a video about TV, how they make movies and TV into second screen content these days. With Frankenstein, there was never a time where I wanted to distract myself with anything else because the story and how it was presented was constantly engaging. It's very well structured. It's structured as, first you get the introduction, which is like the books where they find Victor Frankenstein himself, and then they give us a lot of action by being attacked by Frankenstein's monster, and it's very exciting. And now you're set up with this seemingly scary monster who's very dangerous and undefeatable. It's a very intense opening. Now we get to hear the story of how that monster came to be. So now we have our hook. Now we're going to go into the story and we get to find out who Victor Frankenstein was throughout all this time. And we see the development throughout his young years to the present, how he created the monster and who the key characters are. And all of the characters I found very interesting. They all have a role to play. But the character that I found the most interesting, apart from the monster himself, was actually Mia Goth's character, Elizabeth, who is developed as having a very different way that she thinks about the world. And Frankenstein thinks that they are very similar in how they're fascinated with life and death and how it all functions. But Mia Goth's character, Elizabeth, is different in that she has empathy for all things. And she's curious to find out about things that she doesn't know. And she is concerned about the way that people's ideas, when not put to good use, will lead to harm. So she's actually the opposite of Frankenstein in that way, even though he's attracted to her and he wants to be with her because he thinks that they are similar. So Mia Goth's character, I really already loved Mia Goth as an actress. I loved her character because there was such an intrigue to her. You could tell that there was always so much more going on in her head and how she would react to things and the conclusions that she's made about the world. She was really enchanting whenever she was on the screen. She is so well cast in this movie, and I just think Mia Goth just needs to get an Oscar for something sometime. She's just such a great actress, and she's just so great in this movie. I really enjoyed getting a female character who is strong when it comes to her convictions for once. Like, once again, she has her beliefs about the world, she has her way she looks at things, and she stands by them, and she stands up to other people about them, and she is uncompromising, and it's just, so nice to see. And I just have to say this as a person who's watched so many films this year, just so many female characters just fit into like the manic pixie dream girl trope or the girl boss trope, or so many of those characters, like they try to fit them into these tropes, but none of them are truly intriguing. None of them are interesting. And it was just so refreshing to get this type of female character where she's just an interesting character and a unique character on her own. And she has a very important role to play. So that was one of my favorite parts of the movie, Mia Goth's character. So for other roles in the film, like Oscar Isaac does a fantastic job as Victor Frankenstein, and I'm so glad that his career has been able to thrive outside of Star Wars. But Jacob Elordi, I've seen him in a lot of other things, but he really showed his acting chops as the monster in this movie. And you really get to see that show in part 2. Like I said, this is very well structured. It gets you on board with Frankenstein's journey, and you're really, really invested in it. But then you become more intrigued by the monster as it becomes introduced. So when it switches perspectives and it then becomes the monster telling his story after he becomes separated from Frankenstein, and you're seeing him go on this journey and becoming more alive and becoming more of a person as much as he can be, or perhaps never can completely be, like it was a perfect transition, because all of a sudden I was more curious to find out more about this creature, and they gave that to me as soon as I wanted to see it. Because sometimes it's when you switch perspectives like that, it can become there's a time where it is like, okay, I was just so invested in this character's story, it's going to take me a bit to be invested in this new character story. Didn't feel that at all. I was even more invested when we got to the monster story when I was Frankenstein's story. Now, the second half of this movie was a lot harder to watch because Frankenstein is finally learning to speak and learning about being alive and learning what he is. And he's starting to make some improvements. And there's times in the story where he'll meet someone who's actually kind to him and actually teaches him. But each time you just know it's going to end badly. So it was harder to watch the second half because I grew with such empathy for this creature and I wanted him to succeed and I wanted there to be some way where this creature that never was meant to come into existence somehow found a way to live. But you knew that was not going to happen. So it was very difficult to watch those scenes where you knew it was just all going to fall apart. And it was very heartbreaking, but the movie did its job on that level. And once again, to the people who say that they think that this movie is dull, I just did not feel that. The only time when maybe I wasn't as engaged is when we finally get to the end where it's full circle and we're back up to the present day and we're just filling in the last little holes so that we're back at the present day and it's stuff that we could already figure out or that we already knew. That was the only time, but it was just such an engaging film for all of that over 2 hours because once again, there was always something happening. In the second half, you get to see Frankenstein through Frankenstein's monster, just seeing him develop an understanding of the world through his eyes. And there was always just something intriguing about that on how different things that he perceived shaped his view and how he acted. And there was just always something intellectual going on. And that's just something that I just don't see in a lot of movies anymore. It's an actual intellectual film where there is a lot to talk about. And once again, I just thought that Mia Goth's character, her relationship with the monster and the empathy that she showed and the heartbreak where that the monster being showed kindness, eventually it isn't going to work out. It's just all heartbreaking to watch, but it's all just so very intriguing on the discussion about this perversion of life and death that Victor Frankenstein made. Now, if I were going to give any criticism for this film, maybe the ending didn't land as strongly as I wanted it to. I see how they set it up and how they tried to do an ending that's a bit differently from the book. And I think that works for this rendition. I just think that for me, the ending did not feel as strong as I wanted to just because the movie was running at 200% up to that point. And there was so much that just blew me away. I felt that the ending was incredibly simple and I found out wishing that I just got more of it when we got there and we got to that final conclusion. I'm not sure what they could have done to make me feel like the ending gave me even more substance. Maybe they could have lengthened it. Maybe they could have had more of a conversation and lengthened the conversation between Victor Frankenstein and his monster. I think the conclusion is good. I just wanted more from it, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is the kind of film, I've been really against the Oscars lately. This is the kind of film that that should win the Oscar, in my opinion. It's that good in terms of its casting and the performances and how intelligently it's written and just everything going on in this film and how it actually looks like a film with the production design and cinematography, constantly just a visual feast, knowing how to draw your eye and just take in so much of this film at once. So yeah, I can say confidently I finally found a film that was for me this year and that I really enjoyed and that I wouldn't mind seeing again. So even though there are parts of this film that are very hard to watch, there was just so much to take in. So yeah, Frankenstein is a 9 out of 10 movie for me. It's probably the best movie that I have seen all year, and it was really refreshing to finally get something good that actually inspires me to create more in a year where a lot of things have just been pure sludge. But that is my recommend for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and I just want to say, it is a crime. It is such a crime that this did not get a wide theatrical release and that it's being considered a Netflix film. This is the kind of film that deserves to be playing at theaters week after week. And I think that there is a chance that it could have, with the right marketing push. I think that this could have been successful with the theaters. Perhaps they just didn't want to risk it because as expensive as this film looks, it must have been very expensive to make. So maybe they just thought it would be better to cut a deal with Netflix and make sure that they're going to be safe when it comes to money rather than put out this very expensive film and risk it not being able to make back such a high bar of money. It's so unfortunate because this is the kind of thing that used to play at theaters all the time and that needs to play at theaters and is actually what theaters are made for. A film this well produced is made to see on the big screen and feel like an event. And it's just so unfortunate that when we get actual good films, like K-pop Demon Hunters is another example. It should have been in theaters, but they didn't have any faith on it, so they punted it off to Netflix. These things should have been. We had the faith in them, the marketing push behind them to actually be in theaters. And you might have had, I know this is an original, it's based off a book. K-pop Demon Hunters would have been an example of getting an original film to really sell at the theaters. Frankenstein, we would see. I mean, maybe we would never know, but it might have been a chance to get an actual good film in theaters done with a director with actual vision. So I just think that that is so unfortunate, and I kind of hate where we're at, where we get these great films that are just sort of locked behind Netflix because there was no faith that they could make their money back in theaters, even though they're just amazing. But that's all I got for you guys today. I hope that I was able to inform more of you about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. There is quite a bit of gore in the film because we are talking about Frankenstein's monster and all of that. Typically, that is something that I can handle a bit more. So I was fine with it, even though, especially during the second half, it got harder to watch. But that's kind of the only thing, that it is a gory film, so it is going to be harder for some people to watch. But it is the best film that I have seen all year. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. If you want to support my work, please check out membership and Patreon. And I will see you guys next time.